If you're a foreigner thinking about moving to Australia, or if you already live here and you're thinking Sydney might be the city for you because it's the most iconic, the most famous, and the one everyone always bangs on about, then I'm here to tell you, you could be absolutely missing out. I'm a Brit who made the move, and in this video today, I'm going to give you the 5 incredible reasons you might want to pick Brisbane over Sydney. Let's get into it. Point number 1, it's a genuinely stress-free city. Now I know what you're thinking, Sam, that's a bold statement. I cannot guarantee you will never experience stress ever again if you move here, but as somebody who has lived in Osaka, Japan for 2 years, right after I finished my acting degree in a little seaside town in Cornwall, I moved straight to practically Zone 1 London. And then when I got married, I thought, right, if my wife and I move to Zone 3 London, where there's a few more trees, we'll be happier. And how wrong we were. We were still tense, we were still on edge, we were paying £1,300 in rent a month for a 1-bed apartment with black mold. When I first moved to Brisbane, I braced myself for that very same experience. I thought, yeah, this will just be the same thing, but in Australia. And I was so wrong. So first of all, the public transport in Brisbane is actually fun. The London Tube seems exciting until it's mid-July, 30 degrees on the Central Line with 0 air conditioning, and you haven't got a seat because you're actually packed into the doors like sardines. That's when you realise the tube is only fun when you're a tourist. Even then it's a push. But you come to Brisbane where it feels like 80% of the year it's sunshine, even though it's a cloudy day today, and you can get on a ferry. You can get on, even a bus is fun because the views are spectacular. You tap on the ferry, you not only get these gorgeous sparkly waters, like you feel like you're in Mamma Mia. The staff are so friendly and lovely, they might have a bit of a chat to you. Then when you tap off, you've realised you've only paid 50 cents for the entire journey, and you've got around the city in one of the most exciting ways possible. And even in the central business district of Brisbane, people are so much friendlier. You know, you can go up to someone and ask for directions all the time, or, you know, just for some help. And you feel like people actually want to help you. Try doing that in London and New York. Sometimes you get friendly people, but sometimes you don't. Genuinely, it's a really mixed bag. That mateship that you see in cliche Australian videos and stuff, it's real. The reason why this is relevant is because so many people will chase that big city dream where they're going to move to Sydney, New York, Osaka, London. They're going to make millions of dollars from some fancy corporate job. They spend a fortune living there, and then after a year, they're sick of it and they want out immediately. Brisbane, in my opinion, just doesn't give you that feeling unless you maybe live right in CBD. In Brisbane, you really will want to stay. Your local coffee shop and restaurants and community feels much more like in a town than it does, you know, if you were living somewhere else. Your whole daily life feels slightly less stressful, and that means you're going to have a healthier, happier time in the city. And if you're enjoying this video in any shape or form, consider hitting that like button. Really helps. Cheers. But one thing that really got me is that Brisbane gives you that dream version of Australia that you pictured in your head. Because point number 2, you get the postcard version of Australia. I got lucky. The first place I ever visited in Australia was Brisbane. You know when you watch a film about Australia and you see the palm trees and the gorgeous sunshine and those sunrises that are like so golden and insane, and you see wallabies hopping around and rainbow lorikeets flying above you. People are happy and they're chatting to each other and they're sharing dinner with each other out on their veranda, something that we can't really do in the UK because it's so cold. You want to go to the beach, you could go to Wynnum, right? And there's a beach right there. Or you take a 50-minute car trip down to the Gold Coast where you have the most insane long beaches there. One of my first ever runs in Australia, I was running through Bulimba Creek Bikeway in Brisbane, and it was springtime and I was getting this amazing scent of tropical flowers that I'd never smelt in my entire life. I thought I was in the Amazon rainforest. And then suddenly I see this rustling in the bushes and I look, it's 2 little wallabies. They're just staring at me and they start hopping away, and I start running and I realise I'm running with wallabies in Australia. I thought, what am I doing? This is heaven. If I genuinely thought I would live and die in either Gloucestershire, where I was born, or in London, because that's where every actor goes to. And I'm just so proud that I get to live here, and you could too. And what I love about Brisbane especially is that it's so multicultural. You get to meet so many cool people, try so many different cuisines of food and drink, and go see lots of different entertainment from all over the world. So if you're moving all the way to Australia, you're gonna want some of the cliche Aussie stuff, let's be honest. Unless you feel like you're destined for the Australian Alps and you'll be a skier, or you want to go to Tasmania, where it is a little bit more cold and grey and rainy. a bit like the UK, you'll want to come to somewhere like Brisbane. Otherwise, you'll be disappointed that you don't get the sunshine and the heat. And a quick one before I carry on. A lot of what actually helped me rebuild my life here from scratch, the practical stuff that doesn't make it to these videos, I actually put into a short 3-minute weekly newsletter that you can sign up for. No strings attached. You can scan the QR code there, or it's in a link down below. And when you sign up to that, you get my free Moving to Australia guide, which can hopefully help you get the ball rolling. But here's where Brisbane really pulls ahead of Sydney, in my opinion. It's the people that surround you, because number 3, it's more down to earth than Sydney. Sorry if you're from Sydney, I'm sure you're a very down to earth, lovely person. As a bit of a content creator myself, I'll happily take the mick out of my industry and what I do, but in Brisbane, it feels like less people are trying to be influencers and get everything looking perfect for the gram and going to this aesthetic cafe purely because it looks good on their TikTok. People here dress like themselves. They say what's on their mind. They'll tell you how it is. Loads of people live in activewear here, partly because it's hot and you need breathable clothing, but also because people are going out for family bike rides. They're going for a walk with their mates. If I'm being honest, it just doesn't feel as performative as other cities I've been to, like Sydney, like Osaka, like London, where big city life tries to push you to look like you have status, like you make a lot of money, like you live in that penthouse in CBD. In Brisbane, people just don't seem to care about that as much. They care a bit more about personality, and honestly, if you were walking around arrogant, thinking you're all that, like you might get away with in some places, people call you out on it here. Maddie, why did you choose to move to Brisbane over Sydney?
I just think it's cozier. It's comfy cozy. Whereas Sydney's like hustle bustle. Everything revolves around hustle culture and being successful. Whereas in Brisbane, I feel like you can just like relax a bit more, which is nice.
So this matters most if you're young. When I was 21 years old, me and my best mate Adam, we wanted to move to London as soon as possible, partly because we knew it was good for our film careers, but also because I think we wanted to look cool. We're in the big city, we made it out of our small town life. 6 months in, I realised that it's not about that. It doesn't make you more money, it doesn't make you happier, and it doesn't improve your work, really. So you'll get tired of that performative life real fast, trust me. Matter of months, and you regret not moving to somewhere like Brisbane where you get the best of both worlds, small town vibes, but the big city still. It is the best of both worlds, and once you stop performing, you actually start living, which brings me on to the next point, and it's right on your doorstep here in Brisbane. Number 4, nature is always within reach. When I lived in London, it was a trek to get out into nature, even to go somewhere like Richmond Park where there's a few deer wandering around. It was a trek. I'd be paying 10 quid for the tube, and then an extra bus, and then an extra bus, and then it would also take at least an hour or 2. From what I've heard from other people living in Sydney, it's a similar story. It's going to be easier if you have a car, obviously, you can take a trip to the Blue Mountains and all of that, but with Sydney being what feels like a little bit more built up and sometimes a little bit more awkward to get out purely because of traffic and traffic jams, I would highly recommend Brisbane if you want to go experience the waterfalls, only have a 40 to 50 minute drive to a massive main beach in Gold Coast, or go somewhere like Inogra Reservoir, or go on a hike up Mount Gravatt, for example. And unless you're slap bang in the middle of CBD, it's not that hard to escape Brisbane City. It really isn't as big as people make it out to be. The main central business district is quite small compared to a lot of other major cities. So after living in a big stuffy city where it takes you 2 hours to get across town, being somewhere like Brisbane really is freedom. Speaking from experience, a train to go visit my parents in Cheltenham from London, which would only take you an hour and a half in a car on a good day, would cost me about $60 to $100, and the travel time would be more like 2 to 3 hours instead with a change. And that was just a pain in the bottom. Meanwhile, you can travel all the way from Brisbane to the Gold Coast for 50 cents here. Yeah. 25p. All of that is brilliant, but the real reason why I moved to Brisbane in the first place beats all of the beaches and coffee and sunshine, and it's number 5. It's one of the safest cities in the world. to build a life in. When I lived in Shadwell, London, there was crime on my doorstep, quite literally gangs hanging outside of my apartment block door, motorbike theft. One point, these teenagers were shooting literal fireworks at each other's faces. No idea what was going on there. I expected Brisbane to be like that. Obviously, it's much easier for me to feel safe as a guy, sadly, in this cruel, cruel world. But seeing my wife and how much safer she felt walking through the city at night time in Brisbane, that meant so much to me because I hated how tense she felt in London because it wasn't fair that she had to feel that way. So when I came to Brisbane with my soon-to-be wife, I knew that this was my future home. But it's not just the safety, it's seeing how many families here feel genuinely happy to go out for a trip into CBD with their kids, to be able to go to a museum. So obviously I can't guarantee you'll be happy and safe in Brisbane. There's still crime, no city is perfect, there will still be problems, but I can't find a lot of downsides when it comes to Brisbane, aside from the fact that it's a 24-hour flight from my mum and dad. But there is one catch, and that's the housing. It's not just foreigners who want to move to Brisbane, it's that a lot of Aussies interstate are also flocking here, you know, especially since what happened in 2020. People start to catch on what an amazing city Brisbane is, and the housing has just gone up so much. It's got to the point now where if you look at realestate.com.au, which is the main real estate website in Australia, houses in Brisbane aren't even generally listed for a price anymore. They're listed for auction, so you might be paying $1.5 million for a small 3-bed house here, which is crazy. The good news is renting hasn't shot up too badly. A lot of people will disagree with me on that. However, I'm sure that is only going to rise with the incoming 2032 Olympics. So choose Sydney if you want to. No one can tell you how to live your life, and I'm definitely not saying don't move to Sydney, but I think you'll find that if you visit Brisbane, you'd regret it quite quickly, if you're like me anyway. But knowing why I moved to Brisbane is one thing, but actually doing it is another. And there is so much that I wish someone had told me before I packed my life up in London. So go watch What I Wish I Knew Before Moving to Brisbane. It will save you so many mistakes. Click it now and I'll see you over there.